A king, deep in the night, signs a death warrant, not for one man, but for an entire order. The year is 1307. The date is Friday the 13th. The most powerful monarch in Christendom declares war on God's own soldiers, the Knights Templar. But was it heresy that made him tremble? Was it a secret idol or a forgotten rite? No, it was something far more terrifying. A ghost he could not see, an empire he could not tax. The king was drowning in debt, and the Templars were his creditors. How did a brotherhood of warrior monks, sworn to poverty, become the masters of a fortune so vast it could swallow kingdoms? What secret weapon did they possess that was more powerful than any army and more dangerous to a king than any rival? They are phantoms in our history, the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon. We see them as guardians of holy relics, their white mantles stained with the blood of Saracens. We whisper tales of their secret rites, of the Holy Grail hidden in a vault beneath a forgotten chapel. But the greatest secret of the Templars was not an object. It was not a map to a hidden treasure. Their true power, the invention that allowed them to challenge thrones and rewrite the rules of the world, was an idea forged in the crucible of war and faith, so revolutionary it rendered the power of kings almost obsolete. And to understand it, you must first understand the terror of the world they inhabited. Imagine you are a French nobleman in the 12th century. The Pope has called for a crusade, and the fire of faith burns in your soul. You have sold your lands, gathered your fortune in gold and silver, and now you prepare for the pilgrimage to Jerusalem, a journey of 1,000 miles. But the road is not a road, it is a gauntlet. Between you and the holy city lie treacherous mountain passes, forests prowled by bandits, and seas swarming with pirates. The weight of the gold in your saddlebags is not a comfort, it is a death sentence. Every friendly face in a tavern is a potential thief. Every shadow on the road is a potential murderer. How do you transport your wealth? Do you bury it and pray you find it again? Do you hire mercenaries who might kill you for the very treasure they are paid to protect? This was the mortal predicament. The world was a fractured, dangerous place, and wealth was a prisoner of geography. This is the world the Templars inherited, but they did not see a world of chaos. They saw a divine puzzle, waiting for a solution. And the solution began not with a sword, but with a promise. Now imagine your journey again. But this time, you do not pack your gold. Instead, you ride to the local Templar preceptory, a fortress of God rising from the French countryside. You enter not a barracks, but a place of profound order. You are met by a knight whose hands are as accustomed to prayer as they are to the pommel of a sword. You hand over your life's fortune. The coins, heavy with the corporeal reality of your power, are counted and stored in their vaults. But what do you receive in return? Not a promise whispered in your ear, not a handshake. You are given a piece of parchment. It is sealed with the red wax of the order, the cross pate pressed into it, and on it is written a message, but not in any language you can read. It is a code, a cipher of strange symbols and numbers, a language known only to the initiated, a sacred text of commerce understood only by the Brotherhood. This small, unassuming letter was the key. It was the invention. You now begin your journey. You carry no gold. You are just another pilgrim, your life's savings secure. You cross the Alps. You sail from Venice. You face storms and threats, but the bandits who search your bags find nothing of value. Finally, you arrive, weary and worn, in the dusty streets of Acre or Jerusalem. You find the Templar stronghold, a bastion of Christendom in a hostile land. You present your letter. The Templar commander there reads the cipher, checks it against his own ledgers, and from his vault He gives you the exact amount of gold you deposited 1,000 miles away, minus a small fee for the service. The gold never moved. It sat safe in a vault in France. But its value, its power, its very essence had been teleported across the world. Do you see the sheer world-altering genius of this? The Templars had not just created a convenience. They had severed the bond between wealth and weight. They had conquered distance. While kings and emperors were still moving armies to move treasure, the Templars could move a fortune with a slip of paper and a drop of wax. This system, this invisible network, began to grow. Why was it so successful? Because it was built on the two most powerful forces of the age, the fear of God and the fear of the Templar sword. Your money was safe because the men guarding it had sworn an oath of poverty and were willing to die for it. Their vaults were unbreachable, their network unassailable. They built their empire not on land, but on the most valuable commodity of all, trust. A king's promise was only good to his border. A merchant's word could be broken, but the Templar promise was absolute, guaranteed by every knight, every castle, and by God himself. The system was so effective that it evolved. It wasn't just for pilgrims anymore. Soon, merchants were using it to finance trade caravans. Nobles used it to transfer dowries. And then, the ultimate clients arrived, the kings. A monarch needed to pay his army in a foreign land. Instead of sending a slow, vulnerable caravan of gold, he could simply deposit the funds with the Templars in London and have a letter of credit delivered to his commanders in Gascony. The Templars became the treasury of Christendom, and that is the moment everything changed. The turn, the point where the veil is pulled back. What mortals saw as a humble service for pilgrims had in fact become the engine of a supranational power. The Templars were no longer just warriors, they were bankers. They had, without knowing the term, invented international finance. They operated the first entity that was too big to fail. And this terrified King Philip of France. Let us speak of hubris. Not the hubris of the Templars, but the hubris of a king. Philip the Fair saw himself as the anointed ruler of a great kingdom, his authority absolute, his power descended from God, but his kingdom was bleeding money. His wars were expensive, his treasury was empty. He was a king of a physical realm, defined by stone borders and fealty sworn in person. Yet within his own kingdom existed another kingdom, an invisible one whose borders were faith and credit, a kingdom whose grand master in Cyprus could command more liquid wealth with a single letter than Philip could raise by taxing his entire nobility. Why did Philip destroy them? Because of their wealth. But why did their wealth threaten him so? Because he couldn't control it. And why couldn't he control it? Because it wasn't based on land he could seize or people he could tax. It was based on an idea, a system. The Templars had created a parallel power structure that answered to no king, only to the Pope and to their own internal hierarchy. In a world where power meant land, they had shown that true power was fluid. It was the ability to direct the flow of capital itself. The invention that made the Templars more powerful than kings was the promissory note, backed by an international network of unshakable trust. It was a weapon of pure concept. It allowed them to stand outside the feudal system while simultaneously financing it. Philip didn't just want their money. He had to destroy the very system that made his own royal power seem antiquated and fragile. He had to kill the ghost, and so he manufactured charges of heresy, of blasphemy, of unspeakable rights. Because you cannot put a financial system on trial. You cannot burn an idea at the stake, but you can burn men. And so they burned. The Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, consumed by flames in the heart of Paris, cursing the king and the pope with his final breath. The order was shattered. The vaults were seized. The king had won, or so it seemed. The Templars were erased from history, their name becoming a legend, a whisper. But the invention, their ghost, it did not die. The idea was too powerful. The system they created was absorbed by the Italian banking families of Florence and Venice, the Medici and the Bardi. The concept of letters of credit, of international transfers, of a global network built on trust became the foundation of the Renaissance, the age of exploration, and eventually our own modern world. The echo of their creation is all around you. Every time you swipe a card, wire money across an ocean, or invest in a company on the other side of the planet, you are invoking the spirit of that coded letter on a scrap of parchment. The Templars taught the world a terrifying and eternal truth, that the most powerful empires are not always the ones you can see on a map, that the strongest chains are not forged of iron, but of debt, and that a promise, when believed by all, can build a kingdom more powerful than any made of stone and steel, an invisible empire that can outlast the men who built it.